Story 1. Activities for patients in psychiatric hospitals. Before the pandemic, we had animators, animal therapy, a greenhouse, a cafe run by patients, volunteers, special guests, barbecues, and more. Now, every unit has only one television, and that's it. The pandemic led to the reduction of additional activities due to social distancing, and then the realization that these activities could be cut for cost savings. As a result, nothing has returned. It has effectively become a prison for some individuals who do not have the opportunity to leave. Story 2. Affordable housing and rentals. Affordable goods and services. Affordable food. Affordable shipping costs. Story 3. Shredded pepper jack cheese. I wish I were joking. Where I live, it ran out like many other items and simply never came back. I live in a town that has a Publix on every corner, plus a couple of Winn-Dixie locations. There is no shredded pepper jack cheese of any brand. You can buy a block or slices, but no shredded. It's the weirdest thing. Story 4. Trust in science, medicine, evidence-based thinking and decision-making, and rational thinking in general. Contrarian individuals effectively used social media and other platforms to exploit the fear and panic of the pandemic to spread chaos. And we have not yet recovered from that. We may never fully recover. Story 5. Hope. Not to sound bleak, but if a pandemic was not enough to unite people behind a single goal for the betterment of everyone, then I do not know what would be. Story 6. Non-Chinese buffets. All the places around us have closed for obvious reasons. They were great for those evenings when no one knows what they want for dinner and I am too tired to cook. Now we have hot pot for $35 per person. I pay someone so I can cook my own food. Story 7. Human decency and common sense. I was a restaurant host at the time, and shortly after we reopened, I was verbally confronted by a dissatisfied customer in front of her entire family because, due to fire safety regulations, we weren't allowed to push tables together on the outdoor patio. Her son literally had to grab her and pull her away. We also had more people removed from the restaurant that summer for being disrespectful to staff than in any other year I worked there. Story 8. As a former second and third shifter at a 24-hour store, getting off at 1:30 a.m. was a bit better when I could stop at the store on the way home to get dinner. Story 9. Infection control in hospitals. If you worked in a hospital prior to COVID-19 and entered an isolation room without the proper personal protective equipment, it was a major concern. Your supervisor or coworkers would immediately address the issue, and you might face disciplinary action. During the pandemic, there was simply not enough personal protective equipment available, so you did your best with what you had. It was unsafe and everyone was aware of it. The unspoken attitude in 2025 is that if infection control did not matter during a pandemic, it does not matter during flu season or when a patient has a prior history of methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus. The only concern that still instills fear in healthcare workers is bedbugs or scabies. Story 10. Any of the roughly 15 million people who died from COVID-19 in 2020 to 2021. The fact is COVID-19 killed a lot of people, and none of them are coming back. Story 11. Sanity. Everyone has lost their minds, and there is no sign they are coming back. We are a lost society. Story 12. Many stores and restaurants that used to be open late at night now close significantly earlier, and fewer are open all night. Story 13. My full face of makeup. Before the pandemic, I spent 20 to 30 minutes every morning applying a full face of makeup before work. When we started wearing masks, I stopped wearing makeup altogether. Now that the masks are off, I can't bring myself to waste so much precious time in the morning. Now it's just a bit of mineral face powder, eyeliner, mascara, and a touch of tinted lip balm, and I am good to go. Story 14. 24-hour diners. As both a night owl and a night shift worker, I miss being able to go out at 2 or 3 a.m. and have a quiet meal at a restaurant by myself. Story 15. Someone already mentioned it, but affordability is a concern. I hope I'm wrong, but the situation is likely to worsen before it improves. They have realized they can raise prices with minimal consequences and earn more money than ever before. Until there is legislative action or we become significantly more self-sufficient, prices will continue to rise because they can. Story 16. I find that in many restaurants and fast food places here, they have removed self-serve salt and pepper packets, napkins, and condiments. To this day, they remain hidden behind the counter instead of being readily accessible, and you always have to wait and ask someone to get them for you. Story 17. My job became fully digital during the lockdown and will remain so for the foreseeable future. It's amusing that we learned we could perform our entire job from home, yet recently we were required to return to the office to do what we were already doing at home, now under bright fluorescent lights. Story 18. No one socializes quite the same anymore. Additionally, many restaurants and bars never returned to their previous hours. Story 19. Normality, common sense, and self-respect are important. However, the most terrible outcome during that period was the deterioration of the mental health of children and young people. Although I am not young and do not have children, I observe this issue, particularly on social media. I feel sorry for these young people, as they were separated from their friends and school life. If I were their age, I would definitely panic. Story 20. People's sanity. It seems like everyone is on the verge of a full mental breakdown and ready to explode. Story 21. Respect for employees. It was difficult before, but employees are treated as if they are not human. It is demoralizing. Story 22. I don't know if everyone feels the same way, but during and since the pandemic, I can no longer eat a piece of birthday cake that someone has blown candles out on. Thinking about it, I can't believe I did that before, and I'm not even overly concerned about cleanliness. My family still continues this tradition. I don't make a big fuss, but I also don't have a piece of cake. Story 23. 24/7 places never made sense to begin with since diseases do not take a night off or sleep. It seems like just an excuse to avoid spending a little extra to keep the establishment open. People work during the day or at odd hours. I want to buy food after I finish my shift at 1 a.m., and many people are willing to work overnight. Story 24. Affordable life. Everything has gotten more expensive, and wages are not rising to match so that we can afford to live comfortably. Story 25. 24-hour stores exist, at least here in Las Vegas. However, nothing is truly open 24 hours now except for casinos and a couple of other small locations. Story 26. Respect and manners. I am a cashier who has had to work the entire time, and people are very rude and entitled now. Story 27. Previously, most people spent time outside. Now they are at home or at least spend more time in virtual reality. Story 28. Manners in general in public have changed. Talking on a mobile phone in public on speakerphone and conversing during movies and theaters are the main behaviors that seem to have developed since COVID-19. Story 29. Many places either still close earlier than they did before the pandemic or are no longer open 24 hours. Story 30. 24-hour Walmart and grocery stores. I have to shop around a lot more than I used to before the quarantine, when I could go at 3 a.m. and be the only customer there. It's frustrating. Story 31. Prices. I work in trades. They said building materials would decrease in price, but they did not. I am fairly certain that Home Depot reported record profits. Story 32. A majority of people have lost their patience when it comes to driving safely on highways. Many individuals no longer fear death, as long as it leads to making an exit or saving a few seconds. Story 33. Common sense. Hospitals running smoothly. In 2020, during the height of the pandemic, my husband nearly severed 2 of his fingers while switching out a lawnmower blade. I could literally see his nerves and bone. I rushed him to the emergency room, only to be refused entry. They made him sit there and attempt to fill out paperwork with his dominant hand bleeding and him becoming pale and dizzy. An hour later, they patched him up with some bandages but still made him wait 4 hours for stitches. Even now, when we have to visit the emergency room, we are placed in the hallways behind a flimsy vinyl curtain that provides no privacy. There is one chair in a 2-by-2-foot space, and staff come to discuss your medical concerns within earshot of everyone else. They ask for confirmation of address, social security numbers, policy numbers, date of birth, prescriptions, and details about your issue. It is absolutely absurd. Story 34. In-person customer service has been replaced by self-checkout options or immediate assistance. You may find yourself speaking with an AI assistant for extended periods over the phone. Story 35. 24/7 stores operate all night, and the best time to handle tasks like grocery shopping is during these hours. They closed down for the shutdown on March 21st, 2020, and have never reopened for 24/7 service. Story 36. Common sense and critical thinking are essential. Many people have become accustomed to being told what to think by their preferred sources. Facts no longer hold significance. Only personal beliefs matter, and if these beliefs do not align with established science, they are dismissed as false information. The COVID-19 pandemic greatly influenced how individuals consume information and how it impacts their lives. Story 37. 24-hour grocery shopping is no longer common. Even the Walmart stores in my area that used to stay open 24 hours a day have not returned to that schedule. Story 38. The lower price of groceries, once they got us accustomed to paying higher prices, never returned. Then another event, such as a war, comes along to increase them a bit more, and it continues. Story 39. What we haven't seen yet, but I imagine will come, is a lack of social awareness in younger generations. School is an incredibly important time for social development in many age groups. I believe many children were negatively impacted by this, and we will soon see the effects trickle into society. There will be more adults who struggle with basic conversation skills and eye contact, among many other things that are not inherently taught but learned through engagement in society. Story 40. My faith in my fellow citizens is challenged. Watching millions of people complain about wearing a simple mask in public strikes me as a height of arrogance and depravity, only surpassed by their decision to re-elect Donald Trump. Story 41. My faith in my fellow man has diminished. As a healthcare worker in the lab, I have encountered people during the pandemic who told me directly that everything is being marked as COVID. It is frustrating. There are 4 categories, and if a test comes back positive for influenza A, it goes in the box for influenza A. I have witnessed too many people suffer and die, experienced numerous nightmares, and seen peers unable to recover. Many have lost entire families due to this virus, while a significant portion of the public claims it isn't real. Despite my efforts to explain how immunoglobulin G functions and the importance of immunology, I have lost faith in the public. I often assume that people lack basic knowledge, and in many cases I am correct. Story 42. Some places are starting to bring back 24/7 service, but very few are doing so. Whataburger is holding strong, or at least that is my observation. Can be challenging for someone who works nights. Story 43. No one rushes for anything, and service is lackluster at best. There is no reason I should be at a restaurant with an empty drink for 20 minutes in a nearly empty restaurant. People, pay attention. Story 44. Probably not the case everywhere, but there are actual fun dance nights where you can dance with people you do not know. Story 45. Excellent affordable salad bars and buffets. Being safe and welcome inside restaurants and stores. Excellent customer service. Story 46. My happiness and social skills have been impacted. I worked throughout the pandemic in nursing homes, so I am proficient in professional communication. However, my friendships have not recovered. Story 47. A semblance of predictability, although what probably happened is that COVID dissolved the illusion of predictability. Story 48. I'm not sure if it was there before, but it became evident afterwards. There was any semblance of unity or resilience among the American people. Story 49. Handshakes. Honestly, that old habit never fully returned after the pandemic, at least not in my world. I can't even remember the last time I confidently shook someone's hand without a voice in my head saying, germs. Now it's more like awkward little waves or a polite nod from a safe distance. Part of me misses the firm friendliness of a handshake, but another part of me, the germaphobe that 2020 created, is totally fine with its absence. Story 50. Certain foods were taken off the shelves and can only be found at specific stores, or you have to order them online. For example, pizza goldfish used to be available at Walmart, but now you can only buy them online or at a local grocery store that stocks them. Story 51, human decency, or if that never actually existed, at least the illusion of it. People are much nastier than they were before the pandemic. Angry and only self-interested. It's quite disheartening. Story 52. The wide variety of Russell Stover's Easter eggs used to include around 30 flavors, but now there are only 5. Story 53. Caring for others. Most people were united for a few months, and now we are descending into chaos due to the backlash. Story 54. Outdoor dining. An open container policy for beer and liquor is missed. Supermarkets operating 24 hours. Random acts of kindness by complete strangers. The sense that we are all in this together. Story 55. Trust in mainstream media has diminished. People are skeptical of information unless it comes from informal sources on social media. Story 56. Economic growth and people returning to the office are becoming prevalent. Everyone has adapted to working from home, but things are starting to return to the pre-COVID normal. Story 57. Student attendance and study habits are improving gradually, but attendance remains significantly lower compared to pre-COVID times. So far this year, I have experienced only 2 days with 100% attendance in my classes. Most days, I have between 3 to 6 students absent, and in some academic classes, such as chemistry, the number of absences is even higher. This situation complicates my work as I try to ensure that students stay caught up on what they have missed. Story 58. Family togetherness. There are many broken homes because of politics. My family is one of them. My father became deeply involved in a certain political movement, and now only his wife wants anything to do with him. Of course, she is just as lost in that ideology as he is. Another thing I miss is the politeness people had towards one another in the community. We have all become disconnected from reality and less compassionate towards others, regardless of circumstances. We used to be more willing to lend a helping hand. Now it's often, "I'm too busy." As they sit on their phones, scrolling through social media or binge-watching shows they have seen multiple times before. Story 59. Any desire, even though it was small to begin with, to leave home. Now that Amazon is problematic, I might have to go back to shopping in real life. Story 60. A real work-life balance. Now that employers are accustomed to the idea of working from home, the concept of having a day off has diminished. It's either regular work or working from home. Even overtime is performed from home after regular hours. Story 61. People are being nice to each other and actually socializing. I think many people are socially starved in real life after COVID-19, including me. Story 62. The number of medical professionals available has decreased significantly. After the large response from healthcare providers, there is a notable shortage, especially in rural communities. Story 63. The person I was before it. I think back to how everything used to be, how I was, and I've come to terms with the fact that that person isn't ever coming back. Story 64. Walmart stays open all night, Kroger stays open until midnight, pharmacy technicians at Walgreens who know what they are doing. A chaotic pharmacy pickup being the exception rather than the rule, fast food restaurants that do not close unpredictably at any time of day or night, and my peace of mind despite the lack of understanding many Americans have regarding public health issues. Story 65. Anything late night. I would love to have a vibrant nightlife in my downtown again. Unfortunately, many of the cool little shops have switched to regular business hours. Restaurants largely close around 8 or 9 p.m., and there is no longer a dance scene. If you want some greasy bar food after leaving one of the few bars that actually stay open late, you will have to drive to a fast food chain. Story 66. Late night food. I live in a moderately sized Midwest city, and I can't get a bite to eat after 10 p.m. Story 67. Cut off from work. Before COVID-19, work ended when we left the office. Now, work never ends, yet we have return to office mandates because the quality and quantity of work degrade in a work-from-home environment, according to management. This situation is contradictory. Story 68. Full-time remote work. I have been working remotely since 2017, but after the pandemic, My company used return to office as an excuse to get everyone back into the office. Story 69. My local grocery store used to be open 24 hours, but during the COVID-19 pandemic, they began closing at 11 p.m. They never reinstated the overnight hours. That's when I always used to go shopping. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.